Located about 2 hours south of Boston, Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts is surrounded by sea.
There are a lot of wonderful things about this community that are a lot like living in the 19th or early part of the 20th century. From sailing on wooden boats to the architecture to the fact that I haven't owned a house key for 28 years.
Master metal sculptor Travis Tuck and Martha's Vineyard are a perfect match. With its ivy-covered walls and hand-painted signs, Travis's studio fits right in. Since 1974, Travis has been creating copper weather vanes the old-fashioned way, by hand. His designs grace homes in 40 states and 11 countries, and they dot the landscape around Martha's Vineyard.
It's so nice to be able to ride around the island and sort of feel like I've made a difference. If I were gone tomorrow, I still managed to leave something other than moving a pile of papers from one place to another like so many people do with their lives.
Travis Tuck's one-of-a-kind weather vanes are often commissioned by his clients in honor of a creature or story.
This is in Newfoundland, and I worked from photos of their dog, so it's not just a Newfoundland, it's their Newfoundland.
Travis enjoys creating his unique weather vanes, in part because everyone can enjoy them.
Before everybody had the Weather Channel to look at, or a watch to look at, they'd look at the tower in the center of town, and there would be the weather vane, which up until the invention of the barometer was the only way of predicting the weather.
In his studio, Travis and his two assistants, Eric and Jan, work on several weather vanes at the same time, all in various stages of completion. All of Travis's weather vane designs start here, with a pencil and paper.
This is going to be a weather vane of a sea otter sitting, well, not floating on his back, cracking clams.
Travis says creating a paper version of a weather vane is a lot like sewing.
Because it's all made of flat sheet, it's a lot like constructing a garment. So, for example, we need two sides to the body, a left and a right.
With the drawing done, the next step is to trace around the pattern.
That looks great, Eric.
Travis's assistant, Eric, draws directly on the copper sheets. He's working on a goose weather vane for a client's home.
I love it. Copper is an incredibly malleable, very forgiving material. So many materials in use today aren't going to last 100 years, and copper is. And it's going to eventually develop that really neat Statue of Liberty green patina, and it's a material that just gets better and better with age.
The next step is to cut the copper, carefully following the lines of the pattern. Travis learned how to sculpt metal 32 years ago when he lived in New York City. But it wasn't until he moved to Martha's Vineyard that he started creating unique weather vanes for his clients' homes. When movie director Steven Spielberg started filming Jaws on Martha's Vineyard, Travis approached the crew to see if they had any work for a metal sculptor.
The art director said, well, gee, you know, one thing I need is a weather vane. Have you ever made a weather vane? And I said, no, you know, I could. And he drew out a sketch. He had a sketch pad and drew out a sketch of a great white shark about this big with his mouth open. And he said, that's what I want. I want a weather vane. I want the jaws to look like that. Somebody finally said, gee, you know, could you do me a weather vane of a striped bass? And I said, sure. Next thing, somebody wanted a cod.
It was an unusual start to Travis's career, creating one-of-a-kind pieces that now adorn many homes, as well as his studio.
But this is what allows it to really be readily formed.
Meanwhile, the goose weather vane is ready to face the heat.
Well, this is where it begins to come alive.
When Modern Masters continues, shaping the flat sheets of copper into a goose for a client's home.
All the time you have to be thinking of what you're making. You know, that this is a goose. Now, what's a goose shaped like?
Modern Masters returns in a moment. In his Martha's Vineyard shop, master metal sculptor Travis Tuck uses heat to soften pieces of copper. He's sculpting a weather vane shaped like a goose for a client's home.
Well, this is where it begins to come alive. Well, right now I'm heating it to a dull red heat, and it's a process called annealing. And what it's doing is softening the copper tremendously. As you can see behind where I've heated it, how it's sagging away. And this will both change the color from the bright copper and impart the reds and browns that you see in the finished weather vanes. Okay, it's time to cool it now.
The next step is to douse the hot metal in cold water to cool the copper down.
Beginning to take some shape.
Once the copper is cool, Travis hammers away, pushing flat metal into a three-dimensional shape.
It's beginning to smooth up. Beginning to look like a goose. All the time you have to be thinking of what you're making. You know, that this is a goose. Now, what's a goose shaped like? And effectively what I'm doing is I'll be shrinking the perimeter and stretching the center. It's really very low tech. It's not different than what's been done for hundreds or perhaps thousands of years.
Travis uses a chisel to put in the details that give each weather vane its unique character. It takes Travis an average of 6 weeks to handcraft one weather vane, and they sell for between $10,000 and $20,000. Travis's assistant Jan is working on a different weather vane.
Tack his nose together to get the thickness of his nose correct.
She uses a brazing rod and cooling technique to fuse two pieces together. This process creates the three-dimensional shape. This weather vane was commissioned by a top movie executive.
So now it's beginning to turn into a solid shape. Let's see how it fits. So we're beginning to have a figure. Needs an arm or two and a few other things, but he likes it.
The finishing touch is gold leaf. It's a delicate process.
This is one of those requires a steady hand and a little bit of patience, a lot of patience.
Travis carefully moves gold with a brush. The gold sticks because the copper has been coated with a fish oil-based varnish.
Skewings just fuse right into the sheet next to it, and you'd never even know it's there.
The final step is to buff and wax the copper weather vanes before he sends them off to their new owners.
You do get to be old friends by the time you get to this stage.
And after weeks of work, the weather vane stands as a tribute, a unique symbol of the home or business it flies over.
But it's kind of neat to go around and say, gee, in my own little way, I've made the world a more attractive place. And that's worth a lot.